Okay, so this is what's kind of going on right now. Uh, I am completing my taxes, so I filled out these forms online. Took me like 3 hours. Um, it's supposed to be fast and easy, but it's the first time I've ever done it on TurboTax. I've never filed my own taxes in my whole life, and when I started doing them, I always had somebody else do it, and there was probably a gap between, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years where I didn't file my taxes. It was because I was moving so many times, and I had to end up skipping, and it was just total chaos. That there was just no way. And whenever I was in Colorado one day and had time, I called every single company I'd ever worked for since the age of 18 that I could ever recall, and in pinpoint accuracy, and I got all of them. I got all of them, and got my W-2s and filed them. So I paid all my dues and all that other stuff. So I got all caught up. And I got a few of them that were 4 or 5 years old, but it wasn't too many of them. Like I said, I never worked for a long time for many jobs. But it's just, for me, it's just so that they have their numbers. Because the numbers of the IRS and the government, it measures more than what you think it is. The numbers don't just, it's about you getting money and you giving them. They do much more with the numbers to figure you out and figure out the residency, what you're doing. There's so many other things to it, but I don't really kind of venture off into that. I just know that those numbers are there. That's reporting what my numbers are. So I lived in two different states. I was in Texas. I was in Vermont. So since I was in Vermont last year, from January to like May, I had my Vermont taxes. I only worked at two different jobs during that period of time. So I did my TurboTax, two separate ones, and I have to mail these out separate. So this is the first time I've ever done anything. There's a lot of different numbers and a lot of crap on here. Everything looks good to me. Like, good. I just noticed that it did say something about spouse or something, and I'm not married, so but most of this is supposed to be left blank. But I got the necessary numbers and everything on there correctly for the most part, at least 90%. If there is something I did wrong, I'm sure they'll catch it. But I really don't have a large return, so it's only like less than $400. So anyway, but it is reporting my funds. They can tell right away, even if I'm not married or not. But that's what it said. So anyway, so I got these two jobs and I did this, right? So I have to put a copy of both W-2s from each job I worked at, add this, staple it, or just keep them together and send it off to them. And this is a little copy that they give at TurboTax. So it's like a little record keeping. They give you an address to send it to. It tells you what to do. It says mail it to the attached address. Attach the copy of your W-2, your 1099. Make sure you remember to sign and date your return. So like I said, this is like another check here, and then that was another check there. So what I'm doing, this other tax, this is the Texas tax, what gave me a little bit more. This one is direct deposit to my debit card. So it gives you little directions. It says I should receive it within 21 days. If a refund, if I don't see a refund within 21 days, which is in about 3 weeks, then I should expect, I should give them a call, the IRS, see what's going on. So this one is really good. See, second. Yeah, because the only thing that's on here, it says on here, and it says, check here if you remain home or your spouse's, if filing a joint return was in the U.S. or more than half of 2025, and it's marked with a little X. I don't know why they got on there. But they know that I'm not married, because I have it single listed on here. So, because it's single listed on here, so That's probably about the only mistake. And everything else legitimate. Now, there on TurboTax, it gives a couple of different options. I think it had like 3 different categories. One was like you pay, $100, $200 for their service, and you get like phone calls and operator service and all that other kind of stuff. And then you get the like middle class, which is like some phone calls, a little bit of tax breaks, whatever. The full service, but not as good as the highest one. And then they got the free service, basic service. The free basic service, basically it's free. It still finds tax breaks and all that other stuff. There is a lot to taxes, okay? So I don't care. I don't make very much money. As long as my numbers get reported, I just don't ever look to get money from them. For me, if I get $20, I'm okay with it. Like my numbers are reported, whatever it is. A lot of people don't like paying people anything. But for me, the way I look at it as, if my money is going to pay for the cities and hospitals and churches and all that stuff for the entire state and city, then I'm doing my part as a citizen as for the human civilization in the United States, and I'm doing my part. Now, if the money gets to the bank and some corrupted politician or city council robs the fucking money and shits all over it, that's a different story. I have nothing to do with that. But I just know my part is being reported correctly. As for human civilization, my portion for human civilization is being proportioned correctly. So that's what I'm doing with my taxes. So this is the first time I've ever done this TurboTax, because I've heard a lot of, it's a pretty convenient TurboTax, intuitive. So that's what I'm doing. Hopefully I got all this right. They got all their numbers right. I did this correctly because I feel very confident about it, and I don't get any errors or the IRS knocking on the door telling me something went wrong. So, but I did the basic service, and the reason I wanted to do this is because I've never done my own taxes before, and it's good practice so that it makes it more convenient, and I don't have to go to a volunteer service, and it's a computer system. So it's kind of sketchy, it's kind of edgy. The thing about going to a volunteer service, don't despise it or anything. It's just, if they could make mistakes as well, and it's my taxes. So for me, I think that a computer system that they have on TurboTax, it's already pre-designed. Like, I literally take a picture of the entire real W-2 and enter the information directly on there for you. So it's as clear, as accurate as it can possibly get, as AI and computer crap stuff that gets on there, right? It's pinpoint. So that's what I'm doing. So that's that way it's as close as I can get it. Now, the way that I understand taxes is there is like a 1,000-page dictionary of of taxes. Okay, there are so many venturing information and confusing stuff about taxes and tax breaks, and how much money you made and what state you're in, if you're on disability, how much you made total, how many assets you have, if you pay for rent or a house, you own a house. I don't own anything. All I have is a backpack full of clothes, my debit card, and that's it. Like, not even a real bank account necessarily. It's a PayPal card bank account, but it's not like a walk-in bank account normal. So so I keep all my taxes. Figured I'd get my W-2s. I only worked a few jobs. I could set it on the system, and it actually still gave me tax breaks. So that way, if it also falls on me, it's my own fault. It's also my own fault. But if something goes wrong, I have to just repeat it again and get penalized, and then pay them more money next year. So I'm okay with that as well. But if I know that I didn't do it right, well, I'll pay the penalty, and I'll have somebody else do it so that they can get it corrected, and I just don't get paid as much as money. But at least I'm getting an understanding what I'm putting in, because it is my money. I have gone throughout my whole life, I don't know how many times people could have robbed me for taxes and tax breaks and this and that. I have no earthly idea. Okay, so I hear them dropping a spoon right now, and it's because this spoon, you see how I burnt it over the Jesus candle I had? I have a Jesus candle and I set it on there and it started burning. I didn't recognize it. I had it right over here on this drink, like this. And I can hear somebody right now in the kitchen dropping a spoon, and then they shoot the vibrations into my chest. So as I'm making a vocal conversation of this video about my taxes, I had this spoon sitting on there. He's playing psychology. So anyway, you have no idea the disruption of what they're doing and how they're training me, and this is why. So I have my W-2s already waiting for 21 days, and this is only like $58. So this $58 I'm going to send to them, and have my W-2. But I don't care really for all the tax breaks. If there's any extra, who knows? Maybe I could have got $1,000 if I went to like a super professional. But I just don't care. It's just knowing that the basics of what I'm supposed to pay out. I don't make a lot of money. I don't have anything, and it's just to report my numbers. And you know they're the experts at math, not me. But I keep this for my records, and I may fill out, sign it, and send it off to them. So it's the first year that I've done my own taxes, and it's my first year that I've done my own taxes, and I found it to be somewhat pretty difficult. You know, it wasn't all that easy necessarily, and once I completed it, I just went to the library, printed them out, and I gotta wait 12 to 16 weeks for them to receive. I think that's what it says on here. Yeah, I have to wait. I think I remember reading it said I had to wait 12 to 16 weeks, which is like 4 months, which is up to, you know, I think it said 4 to 12 weeks. That's crazy. That's wild. I think it was somewhere around 6 to 8 weeks, but it said 12 to 16 weeks, which is like that's like 4 months. I don't know. I think maybe I didn't read that right, but yeah. So I send this off, and if I got it right, then great. So I can start doing my own taxes on TurboTax on the internet, so I don't have to be spending money on a bus. I don't have to rely that if somebody else made a mistake, then it falls on me. That if I don't do my own taxes correctly, then it falls on me. I didn't do something right. So it also gives me an understanding of the mathematical world of paying your taxes. So I thought it was important. So yeah, and this year I didn't do a volunteer service, so I keep a copy of my records, taxes, and see how this goes. So hopefully I get this. Oh, and it told me on the internet, and I got a text message that my tax return got accepted, at least for the taxes. It did get accepted. So it did go through. It did go through successfully. Now they do their numbers once they get there and they look at the report. But as far as Vermont, I have to send this by hand, and we'll see how this goes. So hopefully this does pretty good. It's only $58, but I need every penny of it. Send this to them. So hopefully I did all the paperwork correctly. They had all the information they needed that was set on there for them to do their job. So we'll see how this goes. TurboTax is how I did it. Maybe next year, if everything went good, I'm always going to use TurboTax. But there's also some other companies, but I'll use always TurboTax. I know taxes have always been. TurboTax has been around for a long time. Last year I used H&R Block, which was like a professional service, and they charged me like $175, and they're supposed to be experts. You know, H&R Block, Jackson Hewitt, Liberty Tax. So I use those. You know, I've used H&R Block before many years ago. I never go to the professional ones, but yes, last year I did, because it was the it was like I had a little bit extra money to use, like whatever, because there's so many different, huge amount of different tax breaks out there. You have no idea how many tax breaks there are that can be giving you extra money for whatever. I don't know. I'm on disability, but I don't think of it of any way that I can. And I've never gotten any from volunteer service giving me anything like that, but that way at least I know that the H&R Block system that they have, because they're professionals, right? The Hewitt, the Jackson Hewitt, the Liberty Tax, they know everything, and they take, from my understanding, they know sort of a lot of the tax breaks and all this other stuff that people get, because throughout my whole life, especially in my early 20s when I started to know that we have to pay taxes into the year and all this other stuff, I was like, what do I got to pay? I got to do what? Because my mother, every year, my mother used to always worry. My mother would always say, like, sí, sí, te pago los taxes. No, sí, te pago el governor. No, sí, te pago los taxes. And my mother would always kind of like freak out, but not like freak out like necessarily in a real worry. She would just be like, no, sí, te pago los taxes. Sí, sí, no, sí, los taxes. I gotta pay taxes. Like it's our duty to pay our taxes. So, like you have to pay, and you know that you have to pay the governor, or you know, the government. So as I was in my 18, 19, 20, and I started learning that we have to pay taxes and all this, I didn't even know that. Then you have to get some forms, you have to pay somebody money. So in those types of circumstances, man, I forgot what I was going to say. Let me shoot my brain. Yeah, so the taxes that go into this, I was going to say, I got Jackson Hewitt, Liberty, my two taxes. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Throughout my entire 20s, almost to mid to early 20s, and I was 18, 19, I used to always hear this from people that pay taxes. Everyone was always excited to pay taxes, and they were always talking about getting money. I always thought that I was always having to pay, and I'm like, well, some people would tell me, like, sometimes you get money, sometimes you have to pay. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, I don't understand this. Nobody explained this to me ever in life. And all I ever heard were these legendary stories of people getting $2,000 or $3,000, and people that they knew that were really lucky got like $4,000 or $5,000, and they had kids or whatever it was. I heard like legendary stories of people constantly telling me they were getting $3,000 or like $2,800. They were getting like $3,000 this year for taxes. I'm like, well, who's giving you free money? What? All the time. And I have never gotten more. I think the most for taxes I ever got in life wasn't more than $600. I want to say it was like $400. I estimated $400, round numbers, sort of 400. I think that maybe 500. That was like the most I ever got. And that was like I didn't do a bunch of taxes for a bunch of years, and then I got penalized. But they were supposed to give me money all these years, and that was my money. I just never claimed it, because in the tax IRS world, there's something like $2 or $3 billion of tax money that it doesn't ever get claimed from a lot of people, and so the IRS and the government are left with billions of dollars that is actually citizens' money. But I just don't care for any of it. If they want to, they keep the money. They keep the money. I absolutely don't care. I'm not greedy, selfish. I don't care. Just spend the money whatever you want to spend it on. So, but I used to always hear these legendary stories of people like getting $3,000, $1,500, and they only work a couple weeks, a couple different jobs. And I'm like, what? And then some people, because people would tell me, oh, well, sometimes you get, and sometimes you get a little. I'm like, what? I never understood that W-2s are kind of like something that you get in return. Like, I always thought, at least in the first 2 to 3 years, I always thought you're supposed to be giving money to somebody. You don't ever get anything. Like, that's how I understood it. You give some money to somebody. You don't get. So when people tell me sometimes you get something, sometimes you have to pay. No, like, to me, I was always like, I always understood that. Why do I have to give, or what? I'm always having to give. Like, I get nothing. I have to report numbers to then give somebody money for nothing. Like, I don't, what are you talking about? Never believed that I was supposed to get something. So it is get something in return. So anyway, that, I don't know what to say. That's how I see it. So, so that's my taxes. And I got to sign this, mail out before the mail delivery company closes. And yeah, I'm going to head out there and close, send it out to them first class. I'll probably send it like overnight or some shit, $20 delivery service just to make sure they get it in time, fast, early, and a secure envelope. And yeah, so that's it. So I'll be posting these. I'm going to take a snap picture of all these taxes, and I'm going to post it on Facebook. So keep up to date what's going on in my life and what they're doing. For those that may want to care to the interest of all the chaos and harm that's going on in my life. So I'm really just hoping that it goes through successful, like my math GED test. And they got everything was good on the numbers, and they needed the information what they needed, and I paid my taxes. So that way I can go to the library now next year, whatever I am, however much longer I have left to live, and I just go online. I could have done this at the mall. I could be at the mall sitting down having a cappuccino with a donut, or maybe some yogurt, some ice cream yogurt, and do my taxes, and it's taken care of. What I'm supposed to do with paying what I need to give my numbers to, who I need to give my numbers to, I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing that. I'm doing my part. I'm doing what I'm being told to do and what I have to do, because you can't think about taxes. That is something you can never really run away from. I have a debt over $100,000 in medical bills. Like, I don't even have that reported. I'm sure that's a tax break. $100,000 in medical bills. I have all from different states and all this. But, and that's something I also want to talk about. That's something that's professional H&R Block or any of these places never asked me. There's even more professionalism probably above that as well. But something that I have not done in probably the 4 to 3 years that I have been using, I've been using this app called Coin Out, or I think it's Coin Out or Coin In or something. And I have many email accounts, and I have many email accounts and accounts like Amazon, Kroger, grocery store, and all the Walmart set up on this app. And this app is a receipt app. And what this app does is every time I purchase something, it gets the receipt from those websites. If I buy a basketball or a soccer ball on Amazon, I can just put it on this Coin app, and it gets the receipt, and it counts it as a receipt, and it gets that information on there. But majority of all my receipts, whether it's 7-Eleven, dentist appointment, Mexican restaurant, Chinese restaurant, any receipt that I get from any place, paper receipt, I get the receipt, and I always ask for it, and I take a snapshot. I take a picture of it, and I click upload, and it uploads on this Coin app. On this Coin app, not only does it help me record keeping, but in case, it's very, nearly about 98% of the time, you don't ever need to look at these receipts again. But it's just good to have. But the only reason I do it is because, it gives me money for reporting my receipts. And you get, I did it, and I think it's every 5 months. And the amount, depending on how much shopping I do and how many receipts I scan, it's anywhere between every 4 to 6 months, I get $50. And you got to get a lot of receipts. I'm telling you, I'm buying receipts all the time and scanning them, and it's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work. You're constantly having to ask a receipt. Sometimes they don't give you receipts. And you have to spend the time just scanning it, and it goes through, and it's a really slow signal. But the thing about this is what my friend told me, a couple of my friends told me, is that if you keep all your receipts all year long, and you can do this every year. There are people that do this. You can keep all your receipts, and you can file them for taxes and get a tax break or tax return on. You can claim your receipt. So if you spend $120 on groceries, or if you spend, say, $30 on a vacuum, then you can get your receipt and you can put them all in a little box and you can claim your receipts later. And I never knew this. Like, this is like new to me. And I think it was in my I was like, yeah, a friend of mine told me many years ago, I was like 18, 16, 17, and he was learning all this stuff, and he says he actually got all his receipts and he put them in a little box. All his receipts for a full year, he did this for a year, and he claimed his receipts. One of my best friends, John Basili, who told me this. And I remember him telling me, and he said, yeah, he claimed his receipts, and I'm not sure exactly how that works, but you can claim all your receipts, and I don't know how that works. I don't know if, like, all the tax that you pay on, I have any idea. So I guess the taxes that you get on whatever purchases you make actually get added to the amount of taxes you pay for the year, because they don't get claimed. So you're paying these taxes and you don't ever get claimed. So that means that I would be getting more money. So right now I have this app of like 3 or 4 years of hundreds and hundreds of receipts that I pay taxes on that I don't add it in my TurboTax or ever claim, even though I probably could. I probably could go, and whenever I look at the activity on my app, it shows a picture of the receipt. So I could, if I spent the time, I could probably go and click on every single receipt that I paid for throughout the last several years, and I could go to the library and print them all out, make a copy of it, and then go to an H&R Block and see how much I would get. But I'm not going to. That's okay. For me, it's just, they pay me $50 and that's it. $30 or $40. So it pays me $50 for like every. It's like a couple hundred receipts. It's like a couple hundred receipts to even get $40 or $50, depending on what you want. It gives you either cash, you can get like $30 of Amazon credit cash, but I usually always get the $50. Sends it to my PayPal account. But I can claim that money. I can. I remember my friend telling me, because he did it. He kept all his receipts, as many as he could, and put them in a box, and then he was able to claim it. And he did file it for him, which is some people. And you said you should, to my understanding, from what I remember, that's money that's mine that I could be getting. But I'm not going to. So, I don't know. I just don't care. It's fine. I'll be like everybody else. So even though I spent the effort to collect all my taxes, because I do get it for this $50 credit, I could claim it for myself, and I'm not. That's like putting my receipts in a little box like John Basili did, and like he told me, like, the sort of business tactics and the citizen of the U.S. citizen world that we're supposed to be or have the privilege to do, and ability to do, and I'm not claiming it. So, but I could. So, I did make the effort. It's like keeping your receipts, but the app gives me like $50 though. So, yeah, I don't know what the mathematics is to that at all. I have no idea, but it's just good to have. It's good for record keeping. It's good to exercise numbers. It's good to exercise a memory bank of what you're purchasing. Remember what you purchase. Remember what you're buying, to be grateful for what you have. I understand that the world can't run on being grateful all the time. If you weren't competitive in the nature of chaos in the world that we live in, you wouldn't have billionaires that then support money to poor people. If you had everyone be grateful for what they had and lived only with the cloth on their back, you wouldn't be able to develop computer electronics very sophisticatedly and all this other stuff that's necessity that people live in society. But I don't live in that position in the world. I don't live in the world of power. I live, sleeping next to trash cans for many years. So I'm at the very bottom barrels of that. So I don't have any control over that. So it's just good to put this on video. I did pay over $500,000 for my bone marrow transplant. I didn't sue a company when I was hospital or the company I worked for, and it was $500,000 of my blood that I paid for. And you know, it's very. It gets into what you think taxes are in life, because I think what was it? I don't know what president, Benjamin Franklin or one of those presidents or someone said, there's two things that are guaranteed in life. That is going to be death, and that is going to be taxes, which you leave behind. But I know, and it makes me feel very good and comfortable that I don't care about, I do care, but my part of whatever I'm to give them my numbers, what I'm doing, whether they keep, I don't get anything is the way I look at it. I don't get a penny. I'm okay with it. I've reported my numbers as to live in the United States. That's what I wasn't supposed to get anything. Now, if there's plenty of people and plenty of stories that goes on in the world that we live in. People just, get hired in the bad positions that they live in, and they steal millions of dollars and all the money in the world you can imagine, in the cities, to city councils, to politicians, to whatever it is that goes on in that world. Never get caught, some do. I'm not saying that it happens often, but it has happened, more frequently than you think that it does, and they steal money and live in comfort, and then they die and never hear about it. Some get caught. So, but I don't care for that. That's not my job to police that. My job is that I did the right thing, that I was supposed to pay, and they can work out their numbers. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not the world of police here, but I basically feel that the contribution that I made was supposed to be there. Because there's too many people and too many stories I've heard before, people scamming people, taxes, the rich, and the reality of it, to my understanding to this day as well, is the rich, super rich, they pay the least amount of taxes. The poor are paying the most taxes. And that's always been an argument in political law discussions, why why the rich, super rich, are paying less taxes. And it's really unfair, because the poor and the middle class are paying like 3 or 4 times the amount of taxes. And I think Bill Gates, Ed Warren, or what was it, Ed Buffett, or Warren Buffett, I think his name, he's a billionaire, old 100-year-old guy. A lot of those billionaires talk about that, saying that, ultimately the billionaires and millionaires, rich people, are paying very little amount of taxes, and it's just the poor that are paying the taxes, and so are the middle class. So I don't care. I'm grateful. I never owned anything nice, extravagant cars, houses, nothing like that. And I'm old. I've already had cancer, chemotherapy. And here I'm paying my taxes. As long as I just pay those numbers and it's taken care of. So that's the way I see it. It makes me know that that's a whole different story and ball game. That's a different circle of people, to who gets the money of that circle. And, my money's being stolen to feed some guy whatever bacon he wants. I don't care, so I can go about my life, work next job, do what I need to do, but somebody else. I don't ever look at it as I'm supposed to get anything. That's the way I see it. Is I'm not supposed to get anything. I just pay for I report my numbers and I pay my numbers, because we all have to contribute in this world. Even though many people just don't like to pay anything, just because they don't want to pay anybody anything, and some don't want to pay it because they don't trust people with their money and the government. We live in a society that you have to pay for libraries, you have to pay for the computers that you walk on, you have to pay for the carpet, you have to pay for the paint and the painters, for them to be, all these buildings and these offices, the sidewalks, to make society available to live very humanely among each other. That is why I understand you pay taxes. I'm sure there's other methods and other stuff, but that's what I thought taxes pay. Taxes pay, the building governments, the hospitals, the streets, sidewalks, the playgrounds, and then you have, charity events and other organizations that do, but ultimately that's what taxes pay. Now, to my understanding, every year there's something like $300 billion or some outrageous $1 billion amount of money that is left unpaid by taxpayers. So there is the IRS and the government, they have a lot of money for some reason, which makes sense to me, that a lot of citizens did something wrong with their taxes and they were supposed to get this money and it was never unclaimed. So, I remember seeing this many years ago as well. Tax, tuition, IRS, government loans and grants and taxes. They used to have this dictionary book they used to sell many years ago, and you could go through this dictionary, taxes, loans, grants, liens, all kinds of stuff that tells you that you're granted from the government, and be able to have access to pay for school, access for house loans for free. I mean, laws that you never even knew existed. So yeah, but at the basic means of it. So TurboTax is the way to do it. I think is important, but also get used to what your numbers, what you're contributing, and it is a professional software, and it's a responsibility that I'm paying my taxes. That if I did something wrong, I have to be responsible for it, for my own taxes. So hopefully I did the right thing. That's what I'm hoping to do. So TurboTax.